Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. Geeky Sparkles is out and about today. She's sitting this video out, but we're going to talk about Hollywood, the utter state of Hollywood, and just the desperation that is permeating Tinseltown. It's not looking good for a lot of people working in Hollywood. And I want to be clear before I go into this topic. I'm not happy about people losing their jobs. I'm not happy about people starving. I'm not happy about people being on food stamps, and we're going to read about that. But the signs were all there. Like, Hollywood was never sustainable in its current form. That is, cranking out movie after movie, show after show that people didn't watch, that lost money, and they spent a ridiculous amount of money on streaming. We're going to talk about that. A lot of these studios blew themselves up chasing streaming. And it's not good. It's not good for anybody involved. And now a lot of people are looking at potentially having to leave Hollywood. Now, the upside to this, I think, is that there's never been a better time to be an independent content creator, because the playing field is absolutely leveled at this point, and Hollywood has been leveled at this point, but it's never going to go back to what it was. I did a video talking about that before, and it's more and more apparent that, like, the Hollywood we knew 10 years ago, even, it no longer exists. It doesn't exist anymore. Now it's just a bunch of studios being gobbled up by tech companies, or try-hard wannabe tech companies like Disney. Disney wants to be a tech company. They're not terribly good at it, but they want to compete with Netflix, and they're actually going headfirst into the wood chipper, as they like to say, on Wall Street. They went headfirst into the wood chipper, running up massive amounts of debt. Paramount, massive amounts of debt, and now they're getting sold to Skydance, which is owned by a tech guy. We had MGM getting sold to Amazon, a tech company, and I have to wonder, how long before Warner Brothers winds up selling itself to, like, Netflix or one of these other tech companies. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough for them to just create content. They had to be the distributor too, and it's biting a lot of them in the ass, and it's biting a lot of people who work in Hollywood in the ass. And then the strikes actually just sped things up, in my opinion. I'm going to be honest. I think that the strikes sped things up considerably, because the studios looked at this and they're like, yeah, we cannot afford to be down for a year again. It's not going to happen. So send in the bots. Send in the bots. So let's talk about this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Subscribe to the audio version of Clownfish TV if you want to listen to us on the go, and also Derezzed. That's our other podcast. You can listen to that on the go as well. So this is coming from The Wrap. They're talking about Hollywood's pivot to streaming 5 years later. Was it a fatal error, or was it the key to survival? They said that in a lot of ways it was a fatal error, because you can see the major studios' direct-to-consumer losses and Netflix's net income. So look at this. It's not looking very good. They said that the studio losses are in the red. Every year they've been down pretty much, and Netflix has been going up. And we talked about that before. Netflix just keeps on doing what it's doing. It doesn't even have to spend as much money on content now, because all of their competitors blew themselves up. But the collateral damage is people who work in Hollywood, and they're not going to be working in Hollywood much longer. A lot of them not able to survive in the California economy, which was at minimum wage now is like $20 an hour or something. Like, you work at a fast food restaurant, you're making $20 an hour. That's more than I made at my first job as a manager. It's like, what? First management position. I didn't make $20 an hour, but these guys are making $20 an hour. God. But it is what it is, right? California is ridiculously expensive. This is coming from The Wrap. It said Hollywood workers are grappling for a foothold in an industry at a crossroads. They said for many in Hollywood's television and movie industries, life has become about holding on. The pandemic and double strikes have taken their toll on the entertainment industry. I hate to say I told you so, but we told you so. We told you the strikes were actually, at that point in time, we're probably going to do more damage. But I guess I'm like, what else have you got to lose? It's like AI is coming. They were going to stop. They were going to stop productions either way because these companies, these studios can't afford to make 50 streaming shows that nobody watches. They said the recovery many had expected has proven messy at best. Now, Hollywood veterans in production development, those whose businesses support the industry, are facing the unimaginable reality that their dreams of making a long career in Hollywood may be coming to an end, or to a moment when they're forced to consider a pivot to a different life. There is no shame in that. And this is the same advice I've been giving to journalists, people that have been working for digital publications that were bankrolled by venture capital for like the last 10, 15 years. You got to do what you got to do to survive, right? And if that means you pivot to something else, that means you pivot to something else. I've done it a couple times in my career. I'm older than most YouTubers, as people like to point out, but I've done it a couple of times in my career. And you do what you have to do, right? You got to feed your family. You got to pay your bills. You got to put something away for retirement. And if it's obvious that what you're doing is not working, then you have to find another way forward. The Wrap talked to working folks in the industry to understand their personal stories. They include producers in unscripted TV, an award-winning hairdresser, a TV director, a senior vice president for development, a dolly grip, and a sound supervisor. All have struggled to find work since last year. They're all coping with mortgages, car payments, and even food. Most are scrambling to line up a plan B before it's too late. As they explained in their own words, industry trends suggest the unemployment malaise is likely to deepen. Studios are cutting costs and becoming more risk-averse about greenlighting new shows, forcing production companies to find ways to make content more inexpensively. And with jobs drying up, the uncertainties around artificial intelligence, the competition for gigs has become fierce, with hundreds of people applying for the same positions. It sucks. And, again, I want to go back to the beginning of this episode. I'm not happy about people losing their jobs. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying the writing was on the wall. It was. And, we do watch, I guess when you're knee deep in it and you're like working day to day and whatever, you're probably not really maybe you're not paying as much attention to like the trades or whatever's going on, but you could see that the tech industry kind of gobbling up Hollywood from afar, from like 5 years ago even. It was very clear that Netflix and Amazon were going to be the 800-pound gorillas in the entertainment space, because entertainment now comes from Silicon Valley and not Hollywood. And it was very clear that this was going to happen. But again, if you're just doing your day-to-day thing, you're probably not paying attention to this. Major industry hubs, LA and New York, are steadily losing out as the industry goes through one of the most transformative periods in its 100-year history. Well, both of those places are hell to live in right now, right? I mean, I was watching, there was a guy on YouTube, and I'm trying to remember his name. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It's a blonde dude, but he lives in New York. He's got about 1 million subs. And I watch his channel here and there because he has these ridiculously overpriced New York apartments. Like, he had one apartment that was probably a third the size of my house, and it was like $8,000 a month, and it was nothing to write home about. There's another one that had a great view of like the basement of the building across the street. Very modest apartment, and it was like $4,500 a month. And then he found another one. It was like a 200 square foot apartment, and it was like $2,000 a month. But he's also been covering more and more of the crime in New York and the prices at the fast food restaurants in New York. So it went from him covering that, like, yeah, New York's the greatest city in the world and everybody wants to live here. And that's why the real estate's so much. That's why it costs so much to rent an apartment. He went from that to like, damn, a Big Mac's like $15. Yeah, it's like, what the hell happened? And people are just like shitting on the street and destroying the place. Like, what's going on here? Yeah, I wouldn't want to move production to New York. There's no way in hell. They said on-location shooting in LA fell 12% from April to the end of June compared to last year, according to a study from Film LA, a drop primarily attributed to a 56% slide in shoot days for reality TV shows. Film and TV jobs now make up a smaller share of LA entertainment than they have in 30 years, with more jobs shifting to online content creation, live events, and gaming. According to Otis College report on the creative economy, more people are watching videos about shitty streaming shows and shitty movies than are actually watching shitty streaming shows and shitty movies. And they're watching them for free on YouTube. So this is somebody who lives in Brooklyn, New York, Erin Brown. She's a producer for reality TV and other unscripted shows. She said she hasn't worked in entertainment for more than 6 weeks total since November. Oh my God. So we're talking like 8 months. She's leaning on food stamps and credit cards to survive and has turned to doing minimum wage jobs at AI companies. There are a lot of workers in the industry right now that are struggling. Brown said there are a lot of people that are having to sell their homes, figure out new ways to feed their children. This is unique in anything I have experienced in the past 25 years I've been doing this. Wow. Here we have a single mom in LA, Erin Copen Howard, a single mother who has 3 children. One of them, special needs, has tried fruitlessly to get another job in TV development. She's leaning on her parents and is trying to embrace the moment to write screenplays. I knew the earth was shaking, so she was aware, but I didn't realize that the earthquake was going to crack open the ground and we're all just going to fall through it. Wow. I'm still hanging on, clinging to the side of that cliff. I've been laid off before. I've always gotten another job. This job doesn't exist much anymore at all now. Wow. This is tragic. You know, I mean, it really is. And I don't want to make light of it. But Hollywood in general, not the individuals working in Hollywood, but the studios. I fully believe that studio greed and the desire to get into the streaming arms race hasten the demise of old Hollywood. They blew themselves up. In 5 years, they torched decades of decades and decades of careers in like 5 years. And it's not just because of AI. That's the cop out. Everybody's like, oh, it's just because of AI. I'm like, no, that's a symptom of the bigger problem. Basically, the tech industry and Hollywood, they're merging, they're combining together. Hollywood's not happy. I mean, I understand that they're like, well, we can't get left behind, but to take it back to the beginning of the video, in their mad dash to try to keep up with Netflix, they blew themselves up. When what they could have done, I've been saying this for months, all you had to do was make really good content. All you had to do was make your audience happy. And, when you're doing these shows, and this is, and I'm not talking about these people that have lost their jobs. This is terrible, because these are the people that don't really have a dog in the fight. They're not the decision makers. But you have the decision makers like the showrunners and the stars of the show out there on social media actively telling people not to watch their shows. Literally. In some cases, they're like, if you're an alt-right Nazi, I don't want you watching my show. And they do more damage. And then what happens is, because 1 or 2 people shoot their mouths off, hundreds, in some cases, thousands of people are out of work because the studio takes a hit. And they're going to look at the show and be like, yeah, it didn't test well. Nobody watched it because the word of mouth was terrible, because one of our directors or producers went off on some overly political bender and alienated, 50, 60% of our potential audience. And now a lot of people lost their jobs because of it. So for all these, celebrities that are out there, high-fiving each other and trying to get points and upvotes on social media, a lot of times they destroy the show before the show even comes out. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes the show is terrible. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes the show is just terrible. The movie's just terrible. But sometimes the show's not that bad. But because of the people associated with the show, people have already decided to tune out. They're like, you know what? I'm not even gonna give it a chance. Screw you. I'm not going to the box office. I'm not watching your show on streaming. Screw you. And that's because that's the only power consumers have, right? Is to choose not to watch, to choose not to spend money. And because of that, a lot of people are paying for it. And these people might have worked on shows that were better. Sometimes they're just working for a production company or something. That production company gets contracted to work on a whatever movie, whatever. It doesn't mean that the people that are doing the hairdressing or the catering or whatever, that they had any dog in or any input whatsoever into the quality of the movie. They're just trying to do their job. But because Hollywood has been up its own ass for the last at least 5 to 10 years, a lot of people are now out of work because audiences have had it, you know? So, so that's a 1-2 punch. We have audiences giving up on Hollywood entertainment, and then Hollywood spending ridiculous amounts of money, churning out subpar entertainment, chasing this streaming cookie that they're not going to get because Netflix is they already have the market cornered. They're Nabisco, right? You're not going to compete with them. If you try to compete with them, they'll just buy your ass out or run you out of business. That's actually a story. Go watch The Food That Built America. Yeah, Nabisco was vicious back in the day. They were. There's a reason they owned like everything. They were absolutely vicious. And then you got to look into that whole Hydrox Oreo cookie debacle too. That was nasty. But yeah, I mean, Netflix has a comfortable lead. They don't have to worry so much. But everybody else that isn't Disney, and even Disney has to sweat it. Their stock's down. Everybody else has to pay for it, including these people. And it's never going to go back to what it was. This woman here, yeah, she worked 25 years. 25 years. And it's over. Boom, just gone. And you can't just blame AI. She said last year, everything was fine until last year. She said work slowed considerably during the strikes, even for non-union reality TV. Brown has struggled since late last year to find jobs, despite her 2 decades of experience. She has searched on a ton of job boards to no avail. I'm sort of applying for anything that comes along and getting nothing. As she explained, the deeper shift was taking hold, one that other people holding on in Hollywood talked about to the Wrap. Networks have stopped producing as many new shows. Cable channels, which are declining, don't need as much content. And streaming platforms have a backlog of content and are struggling to monetize their viewership. People are watching old shows because, you know, the old shows, even if the stars on those shows had their political hot takes, we were blissfully unaware. We were blissfully unaware of where they stood on social causes or modern day politics or the economy, whatever. We didn't know. We just watched the show. Was the show good? Yes or no? Would people watch Star Trek: The Next Generation today, given how half the cast acts on social media? Probably not as many. I'm going to be honest. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's probably in my top 3 favorite TV shows of all time. And I don't know if people today would even give it a chance because the stars are out there shooting their mouths off on social media. But it came out at a time where we were blissfully unaware. Every once in a while, you'd catch some of these people at a convention or something, but they mostly just talk shop, or they give you anecdotes about, Patrick Stewart being up his own ass or something. That was basically it. But now we know everything that everybody thinks, and it's not good. And I do think it's hastening the decline. There are many, many things going on here, right? So this is this brown lady. She said, yeah, it's sort of trickling down to the creation of content. This spring, Brown worked on a development project for A&E for 6 weeks. We found amazing stories, and they just didn't pick up. They just didn't pick them up, which I've never had happen in the past. After finishing work on one series in November, a few new jobs she was targeting just never materialized. Brown started to feel the walls were closing in. It was at this point that things seemed to evaporate. I know that the director of the Disney Haunted Mansion movie had a GoFundMe up to pay his people. Is it Justin Simeon? Was that his name? I think it was Justin Simeon. But this is right before the Haunted Mansion movie came out, which it didn't do very well. So I don't think he made much money off of it. But he had a GoFundMe up to pay his people. That's where things are at right now in Hollywood. It's crazy. Last month, her unemployment coverage ran out. She's digging into her savings, leaning on credit cards, and living off of food stamps. This is terrible. I mean, I've been there. I have been there. And it sucks. It's scary, especially if you have a family. It's scary. And you get angry. You get angry at the government. You get angry at the people you worked for because of because you're like, if you just planned ahead more, maybe this wouldn't have happened. And in the one case where I got laid off, I was laid off for a while. And I didn't get very much unemployment. Pennsylvania, they didn't really give you a whole lot. And we could do. I was doing, comics work here and there and doing some freelance stuff here and there. But I was angry at my employers. I wasn't necessarily angry. I mean, I was pissed off that they laid me off the way that they laid me off, but I was pissed off the longer I thought about it, because I'm like, you could have seen this coming. You could have seen this coming and you could have pivoted. You had a couple of years of notice. You could have pivoted and you didn't do it. You thought everything was going to go on the way it had been going on forever. And it was a failure of management. But what's going on today is everything is happening so fast. I mean, I do think Hollywood definitely blew itself up chasing streaming. But I think in the case of like the websites and stuff, I mean, you can't see that. Nobody could have seen Google AI coming in and just like destroying these websites in the last couple of months. I mean, it was insane. But it's not just AI with Hollywood. That's kind of the 1-2 punch. It was an iceberg that was easily avoidable, and they just double, triple down. Hey, people aren't watching our content. That's okay. Barely an inconvenience. We're calling people Nazis and they're tuning out. That's okay. That's okay. They'll be back. They need us. They need us. It was Hollywood's hubris. They need us. These sheep, they need to feed, and we're gonna just churn out whatever shit we want to churn out, as much of it as we can. And if that one doesn't work, that's okay. There's infinite money we can dip into, and we'll just make something else, and we'll make something else, and we'll make something else. Eventually, they will have to watch our shit and give us money for streaming. And no, they're not. They're just not. And I think the reality's sinking in. Like, man, just think of all the opportunities that, again, not to single out Disney, but just Disney. We're going to single out. Sure, we'll single out Disney, whatever. All the opportunities they had to course correct over the last 5 to 10 years with their shows or with their movies, and they didn't do it. And it's so bad. We went to go see Deadpool yesterday. And we'll probably do a review on Deadpool, but we went to go see it, and it was so bad that Deadpool kept quipping in the movie multiple times about how god-awful Marvel was right now. Like, they know it's awful, but they kept making awful Marvel movies and Marvel shows. They didn't change anything. Same with the comic book industry. The comic book industry knows the stuff they're putting out is subpar. It's not resonating with consumers. And consumers show you what they want. They're buying Energon Universe. They're buying Ultimate Spider-Man. But then they turn around, they do something that's like a 180 from that. And then they're angry when people don't buy it. And then they just start calling you names. I'm like, well, this is kind of where it was all going to go. Like, at this point, no studio can afford to lose a customer. And you sure as hell can't afford to lose 50% of your customers. So they're going to have to do fewer, better productions so people like Brown here can work. It's awful. Certain debts she can't pay, her credit scores dropped. I mean, this is terrible. She's been working in the industry for 25 years and it's just gone. It's just gone. Here's another one. This is a development executive wrestles with TV's new normal. It's crushing the job market. So yeah, they're talking about her kid isn't even watching TV. Her kid is watching YouTube shorts and Roblox movies. And Roblox. This is the death of television, she said. She's 44. That's all they watch, YouTube shorts, and it breaks my heart. For most of the past 2 decades, she's spent her time developing reality TV shows. Nobody's watching them. Yeah, they've chased off the kids. They've chased off the normies. Older people are just watching older shows. Kids aren't watching the shit they're trying to peddle them. And Hollywood did this to themselves. So many critical junction points or critical four-way intersections, I guess, that there were some major decisions that could have been made to prevent this. And here we are. I mean, it's sad for the people that didn't have a dog in it, who didn't have any control over it, but Hollywood did this to themselves, and it's not going to get better, guys. So I'm going to wrap this up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.